Thank you, Alfreda, and good morning to our audience. Welcome to Breakfast at Big Bang, Advancing Economic Security and Leadership for Women. I'm Ashley Harris, the Vice President of Development at Texas Women's Foundation. And on behalf of the Foundation, I want to thank Social Venture Partners for inviting us to speak about women's leadership this morning. We're talking all week at Big Bang about equity in action through the lens of gender and race. This morning's panel discussion about women's leadership in the corporate world is important because it's been proven and written about extensively that a greater diversity of leadership drives better performance in corporations in every industry sector. Yet, women nationwide continue to lag behind their male peers in leadership roles. Texas women hold down 52% of all corporate jobs, and yet they remain disproportionately underrepresented in leadership. Women have 14% of the corporate executive leadership roles and occupy 19% of corporate board seats in Texas. The Texas Women's Foundation's mission is to advance Texas women's economic security and leadership opportunities. We have 35 years of focusing attention and funding on gender equity. The Foundation established the Economic Leadership Council, you'll hear us refer to it as the ELC, in 2014 to support its women's leadership mission pillar. I'm delighted to introduce a real powerhouse group today to talk about their leadership with the Economic Leadership Council and their work advancing women's leadership in the corporate sector. So I'd like to introduce our panel of Economic Leadership Council members. Bonnie Clinton, Vice President and Chief Procurement Officer of Toyota. Bonnie is also our incoming ELC co-chair. Jana Etheridge, Managing Vice President, Chief of Staff and Customer Office Financial Services of Capital One. Jana is also our incoming ELC co-chair with Bonnie. Hilda Galvan, Partner in Charge of the Dallas office, Jones Day. Hilda is our incoming Foundation Board Chair. And finally, our moderator, Sean Brown. She's the Vice President and Deputy General Counsel of Kimberly-Clark. Sean currently chairs the Foundation's board. Thank you, Sean, and thank you to all of our panelists. I'll turn it over to you for the discussion.
Thank you, Ashley, so much for the introduction and the Foundation. I'm looking forward to a great breakfast conversation with you ladies this morning about something that's near and dear to all of our hearts and that is important to each of us as we lift, as we climb, as I've heard a friend say about the corporate world. So first, I want to just get a little foundational information to you, our audience, about the Economic Leadership Council, or the ELC, and also a program that we refer to as WLI, which is the Women's Leadership Institute, which you'll hear about today as well. So the ELC is a peer group of C-suite executive women. We are a non-fiduciary council that is aligned with the Texas Women's Foundation Board of Directors. We are charged with advancing women's leadership in the corporate sector. Our mandate is to drive women's leadership in company sector across sector. And so this is industry-wide. This is women who are excited to find peers who are with them, experiencing the same things that they may be currently experiencing, and who also have lived and shared experiences as they have risen into their different organizations. We have 56 members based in both North Texas and Houston, and we are actively recruiting across the state. So all of you women who think this could be you, we would love to have you join our Economic Leadership Council. We collectively and individually are advocates for driving change within our own companies and within the community. So we also provide rising women executives with leadership development, and you'll hear about that Women's Leadership Institute that I referred to. We engage with the Texas Women's Foundation's work through legislative session involvement, championing research, and also diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts. This Women's Leadership Institute I've alluded to twice. It's an amazing program that was developed and born from the Economic Leadership Council. We have had 4 cohorts and have graduated 107 women. Cohort 5 starts in February of 2021. Participants in the Women's Leadership Institute range from a number of Fortune 500 companies, including AT&T, American Airlines, Ernst & Young, Boeing Global Service, Capital One, Toyota, Jacobs Engineering, Texas Instruments, and the list goes on and on. Right now, our participants are largely Texas-based, but the program has been adapted to meet virtually. And so if you have amazing women in your organization who might fit the bill, but they aren't in Texas, we would be able to accommodate them. And then lastly, before I turn to our esteemed panel, as I think about the theme that we're discussing over the next couple of days, equity in action in the next 100 years, I would be remiss if I did not point out that at the Texas Women's Foundation and through the ELC, we are very focused as well on women of color. And so we know that there is an intersectionality of experience for women in the workplace who also are women of color. And you'll note that our ELC is prominently has membership by women of color, and as well as the foundation. And this is work that we've been intentionally doing for a long time. It's not something that you can just quickly turn on a switch and make it happen, but it's deep and meaningful and intentional work. And so that really turns me to our panelists. And Jana, I will start with you. And really the question for you all is, why did you seek out a leadership role in the nonprofit community, and specifically with the Texas Women's Foundation? And as we think about that, what about the ELC personally charged you or your company, or as in your sector, in the banking area and HR area, to get involved?
Yeah, thank you, Sean. It's a great question. It's a big question. If I start with my role, I'm very fortunate to have part of my responsibility be to oversee all of our nonprofit and our social innovation work across what we call our South Central region, which is Texas, Louisiana, and Oklahoma. And, part of that is just kind of in my DNA. I'm very, very passionate about elevating our communities. Vibrant communities really are the start and help elevate kind of the social equity that we're all seeking. In addition, in my day job, I spend quite a bit of time supporting our business resource groups. Those are our groups that support our underrepresented associates in Capital One. I'm also on the executive steering committee for Empower Her, which is our women's BRG group that I get a lot of excitement and energy from. But if I take a step back, across my career, I've tried to be a big proponent of supporting women, elevating women kind of throughout the workplace. And I think that aligns so nicely with not only the Texas Women's Foundation, but ELC. And so that's a big draw of what brought me to the Texas Women's Foundation. I've been involved with women's organizations before, and they've all been great. But, the thing that I would say puts Texas Women's Foundation in a completely different stratosphere is, the mission is amazing. The track record is incredible. But really, at the end of the day, for me personally, it's all about the women in this organization. I have never seen a group of women that are so uplifting, so supportive of one another, so inclusive. And even like when I first joined, there was never a moment where I felt like, oh, I'm the outsider. It is just such a warm and inviting organization. So it really is a privilege to be a part of it. And then, as you mentioned, I am part of the ELC, and I absolutely love developing future women leaders. And I think that is a key to all of the organizations that, we all make up as part of ELC. And so having that be part of the pillar is just, it's a privilege to get to be a part of. So.
Well, we're so thrilled that you not only joined, but now you're going to be taking on that leadership role as co-chair with Bonnie. And so Bonnie, we'll come to you as well. And, a similar question, what got you involved? And I know at Toyota, you all just through your mission have really taken North Texas by storm with the community emphasis and the entrepreneurial scope that you have, as well as a focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion. But, you personally have gotten involved, and what was that like for you, and why did you dive in?
Thank you, Sean. I think for me, it was really around, as I came to Texas with Toyota, wanting to do something that would make an impact and something that meant something to me personally, and also that aligned with the company. So for me, when I first came to my first luncheon at Texas Women's Foundation, I was struck by the mission and the women that were in the room, and learning and doing the research and understanding what it's all about. And I thought, this is an organization that really is doing good. And it also was wonderful because it aligns with what Toyota is about, our core values, and that is, you know, respect for people and continuous improvement. So it was a very, I'll say, easy fit for me on a personal level and on a corporate level. So I thought, we definitely have to participate in this. And I'm so impressed with, and I continue to be impressed with all the work that's being done and the breadth of work, from research to advocacy to education to develop, you know, leadership development. And that's what really resonated with me. It was the opportunity to invest in, you know, in the community, but also to align with what is happening at Toyota. So it was a wonderful, I'll just say, serendipitous that I was connected my first year in Texas with the Texas Women's Foundation. But what I love is that I've been able to be involved with ELC from the start when I joined the board, and got to participate in the formation of WLI. And through that, having Toyota women attend the various sessions has been life-changing for them. To hear the feedback that they've experienced through the program has been really wonderful, and just reinforces the need for these kinds of programs, and that we're really on the right track. So that's super exciting to me. And I've been so thrilled to be able to try to continue to advocate and grow the awareness at Toyota. So I love what Texas Women's Foundation is doing, and I love to see the results that we're getting from our team members who have been involved and exposed to the programs.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Well, we're lucky to have you, and very grateful to not only you personally, but Toyota for what all support that they've provided to the North Texas community as a whole. And for sure your involvement with the Texas Women's Foundation. So Hilda, as chair-elect of the Texas Women's Foundation, you know, you're gonna take us into this next level of our leadership and our focus on the community. And I know that you have led a number of organizations in the community, have already been board chair, including the Dallas Regional Chamber. You're leading the law firm on the professional side. And so you really have a seat from the top to really think through, how does an organization really push forward with change? And, you know, for a law firm that's been around and in the community like Jones Day, you definitely have a lens and a view of what that leadership looks like. And so I'd love your thoughts on what drew you to the ELC, but really kind of observations from the chair that you sit, where you're able to see all those things take place. And you're on mute, Hilda. There you go.
So let me start by saying to both the things that both your companies, Toyota and Capital One, do for our community is amazing. I've gotten to see it over the years, and are very grateful and grateful on behalf of the community for all that you do. So let me start with that. Texas Women's Foundation, to me, is an incredible organization, and being a part of it and leading it has been really important to me, because I think giving back to the community in any way is important. There's so much need out there, but as a woman, and because many of my challenges throughout my personal life and in my professional life have resulted from being a woman and being a woman of color. And so I'm passionate about finding ways to advance women. And there's so many ways. ELC allows us to advance women in the leadership roles, right? And leadership is so important because leadership puts you in positions of power, and power drives change. And so to me, there are so many ways to help. There are women in poverty, and you can help them in certain ways through education, through financial assistance. But another way to help women is to put them in leadership roles. And ELC is focused on that. It's a group of incredibly successful women who are in leadership positions, helping other women advance in their careers and professionally. And that is critical, because as I said, it puts you in a position of power, and power drives change. And I'm incredibly passionate about ELC and Texas Women's Foundation as a result of that.
So thank you for that. That, you know, I'll just chime in here, point of privilege, I guess. But, you know, what drew me to the ELC, in addition to all the things that you said, so I would echo each of your commitments. And at the time I joined, I was, you know, in a private practice law firm, and now I'm at a company, Kimberly Clark. And so some of the things that I learned through ELC sort of led me to ultimate career decision as I looked at an organization that was focused on making lives better, you know, and that was really aligned with what I wanted to do. And so that mission aligned with me personally, like you said, Jana, just, you know, what through Capital One and the things that really spoke out to you personally drove you there. But the other piece that I really felt and found was oftentimes, even though we definitely have made progress, there's many times where as a woman, and in particular a woman of color, I'm the only one in the room. And it was very comforting to walk into an ELC meeting and see all these women who maybe had a similar experience, but there was sort of an immediate bonding of sisterhood, if you will, because of those experiences and because of the conversation we could have, which kind of leads to how the Women's Leadership Institute program was born. And before we turn to the question, I'll ask you guys, I'll just educate the audience a bit. So this group of executive women who comes together about 4 times a year to talk about meaningful topics to them individually, to continue to professionally develop themselves, and also to tackle issues both corporate and community, recognized the need for a program to develop star leadership within their organizations. And so these are, you know, we did a great job of recruiting women to come to the organization. And we even did a decent job at promoting women and hopefully retaining women. But as we thought about, you know, who's in line for the succession plan to the C-suite, many of the folks that were in those ELC meetings recognized that there were unspoken and unwritten rules and orders of operations and things that were needed to be checked off that you should do that just weren't happening in the same way for women that they may have been happening for men. And that as women, we did tend to have a modicum of, you know, sort of put your head down and get your work done, and somebody is going to come tap you on the shoulder, and to think through what that looks like. And so for as many programs and leadership opportunities that were out there, there was a recognition among this group that there was not a program unique to taking star performing women in an organization and propelling them with opportunity. And so this program was developed by this group. The curriculum was written by this group. We hired an amazing facilitator to lead it. She came back and it was tweaked back and forth. We had brainstorming sessions, and it was a beautiful process to watch. And now, having graduated 107 women, I know that each of you has people in your organization who have gone through. I'd love for you to talk about their experience and your observation of the program. And then also hit on the sponsorship piece, which I know was a key part in developing that program. And Bonnie, I'll start with you.
Sure. So, you know, I was fortunate to be sponsor of the first female who went through the program, first cohort with Toyota. And I'll tell you, it's such a rich experience for the sponsors as well as the attendee. But I will tell you that after the program, my gal said to me, she says, you know, this was the best program. She was from HR, so that we selected someone from HR so they could give us an HR perspective on it.
Yeah.
And she said, you know, I've been through many programs, and this is the first program that resonated and really struck a chord. And she said, it was life-changing. Those were her words, quote, it was life-changing. And this is somebody who came from an HR background, who had been exposed to many programs and had even, you know, been responsible for driving programs, leadership programs across the company. And I know that she shared with me that she made career decisions because of going through this program and really having a better understanding of herself and where she wanted to go on a personal level. So to me, that personal experience for me as a sponsor and talking to her and seeing firsthand how it changed really resonated with me. I thought, you know, if somebody who has that kind of background can see the value in this, we definitely want to make sure that we're continuing in the program. And we have been able to do that. We've been able to, you know, have attendees over the years. I think the other thing that I love about it is, as you shared, it was a program by women for women. And many, you know, I've been through a lot of development programs as well, and as well as many of you in the audience. And as a female, going through a program that's developed by women for women has a different flavor. And I think it touches on things that maybe more generic programs don't touch on. And having a program that is strictly, the attendees are all women as well, I think opens the opportunity to really get down into the core and the heart of many things that are happening in personal lives that impact your careers. And also talk about women in the professional, you know, corporate environment and things that you are, you know, we women are not comfortable talking about openly in, say, mixed environment, mixed audience. So it's been a great experience, you know, based on the attendees that have gone through the program at Toyota. And I just see, you know, that continuing. Super exciting to see where it's going.
Yeah. Yeah, in fact, we started with the first session, and we do keep the classes intentionally small. So definitely less than 30. I think it hovers around between 24 to 30 or so. So that intimacy is there, just like you talked about with the woman who went through the program from Toyota. And we ended up having to schedule the next cohorts more quickly than anticipated because the demand was so great after people went through that experience. So Hilda, I know that Jones Day has also participated in WLI and had participants. What are your takeaways or feedback from folks from Jones Day who have done it?
So there's a couple of things that I think are really great about the program and that folks have responded to that have participated. One of them is that it's not just within a company, right? So you have one person, maybe two people from different companies, and it's across industries. And because you're not with all of just your colleagues, there's the ability to be more honest, and because you're talking with women that aren't at your company about issues that deeply impact your career and impact you personally. So I think the across industry gives you a different perspective. Being with folks that are not necessarily in your organization gives you the ability to be very honest. You don't feel like you're being watched, you know, in how you say things. And so what I've heard from the folks in my firm that have attended is the depth of the relationships that they're forming with people. They're forming some very, very deep relationships, and the trust, and that's long-term, right? So you're going through this together, and you're now also building a network, you know, throughout your career. So, and across, again, industries. So I think that's amazing. One thing that I've done on the sponsorship, so every attendee has a sponsor. I have asked one of my male partners to be the sponsor because I think men need to be a part of the conversation, and they participate in it, and they learn a lot because they'll come back to me and say, wow, I didn't realize, you know, X, Y, and Z. And so it's been a learning experience for the men in our organization that have participated as sponsors as well.
Great insights. Thank you, Hilda. So Jana, what about you? I know that you two have had women who go through the WLI program. Would love some feedback and insights.
Yeah. And I mean, I have to underscore, like Bonnie and Hilda both said some amazing things. I think like internalizing that this is a program designed by women for women. I think the power in that, you know, I think is just so spectacular because there are nuances of things, whether we like to say there is or not, there are nuances of things that I think matter and women need to hear in a safe environment, which leads me to like the openness point that Hilda just shared. I think, you know, all companies have different development programs, right? And we send our, you know, the best of the best through them. But I do believe there's always a little bit of being on guard because you're amongst your internal peers. You want to make sure you say the right things and, you know, respond in the right way. And you've got your corporate hat on. We all have our own language that we speak in our companies. And so I love kind of the freedom that this program creates for the participants, and certainly I think it actually also unlocks the roles that the sponsorships play. But for me, so I have this amazing leader who is actually gone through in this last cohort. She's on my leadership team. And, you know, she already started from such a great place, strong leader. She's in the VP ranks at Capital One, which is the executive ranks. And so arguably, you know, had already been successful, right? But the things that I've observed in her and the things that she's shared, you know, a couple things that I think aha moments that she's had. And I think we all go through this in our career, which is, you know, you get to that next level. So you try to just do more of what you did at the level before, because clearly that's what got you successful or, you know, made you successful. So you'll do more of it. And, you know, she was no different than any of us in that journey. And I think women in particular try to just take on more and more and more. And one of the unlocks that she had going through WLI is what she calls now managing her own boundaries. And so she's really focused on how does she delegate to her team? How does she really focus on the, you know, kind of the highest calling, the most purposeful work that she needs to drive for the organization? And it has been very noticeable in how she leads her team, how she leads with me, the things that she brings to me. And I think that has just been fabulous. The second thing that I've observed in her is almost like a confidence boost. So she's a great people leader. You know, her engagement numbers show it. Like, there's undeniably, she's a really good people leader. But I think this program helped reinforce like the behaviors that she was doing that were great. And then it also helped kind of emphasize what she needs to do more of as she leads a high performing team. The team that she has under her are super high caliber, you know, a lot of A-type personalities that want to advance their career forward. And so she's been able to take some lessons from the rest of the group on how can she continue to motivate a high caliber team. And then, you know, the third, and I know both Bonnie and Hilda touched on this, but she has shared with me on multiple occasions just the cohort now that she has, you know, kind of this peer outside of Capital One that she has to lean on, not only in the program, which gave her, you know, that safety space to challenge her own thinking, to ask questions, to speak up in a, you know, in a safe space, but now, and we've seen it, right, in other cohorts as well, like that's a lasting group. You don't just like, you're done with the development and you move on. Like a lot of these women form really long lasting bonds. And so, you know, as a sponsor, as she brings back learnings and I listen to them, like it helps me. It makes me really proud and so excited to get to see how she's growing in this experience. So it's a fantastic program that, you know, love that we've been able to create. I was not on the beginning part of it, but, you know, I'm very looking forward to continuing such an important program for the community.
Thank you. Yeah, those are great insights as well. You know, as Jana and Bonnie in particular were talking, I was thinking through the sponsorship side for WLI, and I know we do a sponsorship workshop for the sponsors who participate in the program, and so it's sort of a mini day for them that goes through so the program lasts kind of like a school year, like a 9-month program. And it meets 4 times, but the sponsors meet once, and they get kind of a day in the life, so to speak, of what their participants will be going through and then what's required of them. So Bonnie, would you mind like double clicking on that workshop and then what was required of you as a sponsor? And then Hilda be thinking, because I'm going to come to you and talk to you about sort of the strategies that you employed on, you mentioned sometimes choosing men, but how you decide who the right person is for that sponsor. So Bonnie, first for you on the sponsorship.
Sure, happy to do that. So I think for me, when I went through the sponsor workshop, there was some pre-work, which was great. So to fill out a survey and kind of do an inward kind of filling out the survey and to kind of see where I was as a sponsor in some of these, kind of how I perceive myself. And I thought it was really great that through the day, we got to see, as you had shared, some of the activities that the attendees would be going through. It also, you know, talked a little bit about, okay, so here are some things you may or may not be aware of that are happening in, you know, as part of women's leadership. And so I think to really highlight, emphasize, and create that awareness and keep that, again, top of mind is to recognize, oh, you know, I knew that, but I hadn't thought about that in such a long time. Or, you know, things are starting to change a little bit and here's how we can help. But I think the key piece is that to reinforce the fact that, you know, this is a you know, year-long program, and to make sure that we are supporting the attendee, to make sure that we are reinforcing the learnings they have and checking in with them to see, you know, how are they doing? How are they feeling? What are the things that they're learning? What are the challenges? How can we apply that in the day-to-day environment? And really being that support for them through the program. It's not just a once, attend, kick the session off, and then off they go. You really need to be engaged. And it should be, my situation was a little bit different, but it should be, the sponsor should be somebody who's going to be a sponsor for them when they're at work as well. That this is somebody who should be able to influence and advocate and sponsor their progress at work. And I think that's really important. So the sponsor role is critical to making sure that you have the right sponsor that's matched up with the right attendee. And it doesn't necessarily need to be their immediate boss. It can be, you know, whatever level or whatever, and maybe another area that they may be working with closely, or somebody who has a lot of influence.
Yeah, no, those good points. And as you were talking, I was thinking through, you know, how we intentionally chose the word sponsor and not mentor. And then B, the thought that goes into one of the conversations that happens as individuals sort of ascend into that C-suite space is you got to have somebody in the executive ranks that's willing to speak on your behalf and be a champion for you in a room that you're not. And a lot of that strategy goes in. So Hilda, you know, you specifically mentioned men in the conversation, which is extremely important because we need a diverse group of opinions around the table, and it can't be all women. But love your thoughts on just the strategy you employed to decide who was the right choice as you had somebody go through that program.
So along the lines with what Bonnie said, the sponsor has to be somebody that can continue to sponsor them in their career. So someone who can help advance them in their career, make sure that they're getting the opportunities to continue to advance. So that to me was really important. And the second, it had to be someone who has shown an interest in advancing women, right? Who's shown that maybe I haven't always done this right in the past, but I want to get it right in the future. That was one of my sponsors. And so it was really that, someone who wants to change things, and then someone who can be in a position to advance that person in their career. Those were the two things that I was looking for.
Yeah. And you know, we're a metrics-based organization. We do research. We talked about that on the front end. We have seen, and I actually don't know from your personal experiences, but would love you to chime in. I know that there are a number of women who have gone through WLI in the various cohorts, and we've gotten great success stories on promotions, new roles within the organization, additional responsibilities. And do you guys have any specific experience on that? I know we've heard some great success stories from folks that have gone through the program. None. Okay.
For one story, and it somebody who actually, two people who went through the program. They actually made career changes within the organization because of their experiences. I think that they really looked deep within and said, how, you know, kind of what's my career track? Where can I get some different experiences? So I think that confidence to be able to make that kind of a career move midstream is pretty empowering.
Yeah.
And I can say, I don't know that they would have made those choices prior to going through the program. But I think that the
Yeah,
program.
because you can get dug into like the trajectory, right? Like this is the
Yes,
path I need
yes,
to be on. I need to do this, this, and this. And then you
right.
sort of see what you're passionate about, like Jana started talking about, and I should make a pivot and do something else.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
I also think it can reinforce, right? So I know for the leader that went through or is going through the most recent cohort, I think going through the exercises have just helped reinforce her that she loves what she does. You know, maybe it's not necessarily would have been the path that if she had sat down, 5 years ago and said, this is where I'm going to head, might not have been what she did. But now, like going through some of the exercises, she's like, I love what I do. It makes me happy. I'm wildly passionate about it. And so I think both are important directions, right? So whether it gives you the power to make a pivot or it just helps reinforce that, hey, you're on the right track. I think either way, those are great outcomes of the program.
Because then you can be intentional about where your moves are. I think a lot of times people end up on a path and they just kind of follow it because that's where they are, as
Yep.
opposed to making intentional choices, and that can be revealed too. So we are. I understand that SVP is very big on making sure that the audience walks away with a challenge, and we tackle big issues and tough issues through the ELC. And I know that we also think big. And so I know each of you has a different challenge that we talked through that you were going to present to our audience. And so, Jana, I'll start back with you on the challenge that you're going to present to the audience and what you would say to them.
Yeah, so this has been a great panel. Thank you for having us. And the challenge I would give to this audience is to advocate for other women. And when I think about what advocate means to me, there's a couple of different directions. So one, and Sean, you mentioned this, like in your own organization, advocate for the women that are there, the women that are maybe more junior to you, maybe don't have as much tenure as you. Advocate publicly, but more importantly, if you're in a position of power, advocate privately, because that is going to be the thing that really moves the needle. Women need advocates, and that should come from other women as well as the allyship of males, as Hilda had mentioned. And then the second part of advocate to me is outside your own company. There are ways to advocate through the work that you do as volunteers or through the organizations that you associate with that align with the mission of your company or align with your own personal values. And by supporting those organizations, you're also advocating. And so that was one of the reasons that I chose to get involved with the Texas Women's Foundation, is because I wanted to advocate through my own time and my own voice the importance of creating a platform for equality for women and girls. And, Texas Women's Foundation has allowed me to do that. So I would challenge the audience to advocate, advocate, advocate.
I was on mute. I was so into what you were saying, didn't even realize that my mic was still on mute. But I love what you had to say about that. And I know that, we talk about our army of advocates, and there's definitely some resources even on our website as we think about how to support people in business overall to advocate as we advance for equity in the workplace for women and for girls across Texas as well. But I think a piece of that is educating yourself too about what those issues are, and then being able to speak out on those. And so, Bonnie, I'll turn to you on your challenge to the audience.
Absolutely. So my challenge to the audience, to all of you, is to educate yourself and others to really understand what the need is, the specifics of the need in your community, at your companies. And if you understand the need, then you will be a better at identifying the impact that you can have and also the value that that brings. If you do those things, then you can be a better advocate. So I would say educate yourself and others.
And I think part of doing that, that's a great point, is finding out where the right resources are, either in your community, in your organization, going to learn a new skill. I think, we were talking before about some of the women who went through WLI and they realized, you know, this is not the path I particularly want to be on, and having the courage to not only say and accept that, but then go educate yourself about it, and then be willing to share your story. I mean, I think that's another piece and a comfort that I found with the ELC, because, you know, when someone's introducing you and they talk about your position in your organization or any accolades that you may have gotten or awards, you know, it's easy to sort of look at that resume, that piece of paper, and not see the hard work or the stumbles or the falls that went along the way. And so part of educating is also educating others by sharing your successes and your fails, and using those fail forward to make sure somebody else doesn't have to do the same thing. And I think that's another thing that's a great benefit of this group of women in this organization. So, and then Hilda, I will come to you, and I will ask what your challenge is to the audience.
So my challenge to the audience is that you donate. And there are so many ways that you can donate. You can donate your time, and that's taking time to talk with someone, give them some guidance, some advice, speaking at high school to encourage the young women to get a college education, to get involved in STEM. It involves, you know, sharing your talents, donate your talents. In the law firm world, we do a lot of free legal work. We've done a lot of representing women and children as they seek asylum in our country. That's something that's been a really big part of Jones Day, and something the Dallas office has been very engaged in. But you can donate your talent. You can help others who don't know how to navigate whatever the system is. For us, it's the legal system. And you can donate, you know, treasure, finding ways to contribute personally, asking your company to contribute, raising funds by getting involved in some type of a walk or whatever the fundraising activity is. Or you can do all three, frankly. But the importance of donating is that really it allows you to create a partnership with your community, right? You're giving back, and you're becoming a part of the community in a way that's going to be meaningful to you. It's going to be meaningful to your company, and it's going to allow you to develop this long-term relationship with the community and with each other. So donate time, talent, and treasure.
That's good. And you know, and I understand that we have our audience is very broad. We've got some students in the audience, we've got some executives in the audience, we've got folks in both the for-profit and nonprofit world. And so on the donate side, I love how you put that, Hilda, because you didn't just focus on money, you focused on time, you focused on using your resources, or maybe even your influence to help and advance change. And I think that's important. And I would just take, and, you know, specifically to speak to the students who are listening, that it's never too early for you to donate. You know, likely you are here because someone invested time in you, and you need to make sure that you do that for someone else who's coming along with or behind you, because that's how we continue to move forward. So this has been such a, Bonnie, did you have something to say?
You know, when you said that, you know, you spoke to the students, and I'll say, you know, I had an experience early on in my career, my first professional, quote unquote, professional job out of school, where a female took me under her wing and just kind of, you know, showed me some ropes, and just, you know, took time to share with me kind of the tricks of the trade, if you will, and just befriended me. And that happened early on in my career, as I mentioned, and it always stuck with me. I thought that, you know, here's somebody who had really nothing to personally gain other than she took an interest, and maybe she saw that I had some potential, I don't know, but it meant the world to me. And I've never forgotten that. And I've always thought, you know, that's something I'm going to do, because it's something that everybody can do. Everybody has a talent or time or something that they can offer someone else. So we should do that, you know. And, you know, when you think about it, if you educate yourself, you advocate for better, and you contribute and donate either time or money, we're investing in our community, the place where we work, play, and, you know, live. And don't we all want to lift it, right?
Right.
So if we do all those things, we can all make an impact. no matter how small.
Yeah.
It makes a difference.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said. And I'm so glad you shared that story. And, you know, as I think about the time we've all had together, which has flown, by the way, you know, each of you is the epitome of equity in action, because you yourself have achieved in your own careers, personally and professionally. You have given back to the community, both on a micro level and a macro level. And you make sure that this place is better for those who are coming behind you. And so I really appreciate the time that you all have spent with us today. And unless, is there any other closing thoughts or words that you would give to our audience other than the challenge that you want to make sure they leave here today as they think through how they can be part of the change or part of the difference?
I just want to say thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much.
All right. Thank you all so very much. We appreciate you listening to us of the Economic Leadership Council at the Texas Women's Foundation.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to day 2 of bigBANG. I'm Tony Fleo, the CEO of Social Venture Partners, and I am thrilled to be here with you today. We are particularly grateful for this topic because we are originally set bigBANG to celebrate the 100th anniversary of women's suffrage, of white women's right to vote. We recognize that women of color did not get that vote for many years to come, but today we have an extraordinary lineup, as you've just heard, of women doing amazing things, equity in action, as women take leadership roles all over North Texas. This afternoon, we have a very exciting lineup for you. We have local artists that you do not want to miss. Their presentations are so moving. We have extraordinary speakers later this afternoon that you absolutely want to tune into. But most importantly, for our purposes today, we want to acknowledge how wonderful the organizations are and the institutions that are doing this work with us. Texas Women's Foundation is a co-producer of our event today. KERA is a co-producer with us and sponsor for the Arts and Seek sections. And we have a great lineup of music for you if you want to stay tuned and listen to that from KXT. So we welcome you to day 2. We hope you will hang in there with us for the afternoon and of course be back each and every day until we conclude on Friday. Thank you all for your participation and your support.